Focus, Delaware takes you to the Brandywine Zoo. Now, the birds are chirping, the lions are roaring, and there's quite a bit of monkeying going on. And I'm standing next to Tom Skeldon, the zoo director. Now, the Brandywine Zoo was started in 1905, but 2.5 years ago, it was completely reconstructed, and now it's about 2/3 complete. The hours are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily. However, if you want to avoid the nominal admission charge, you can come Saturday morning before noon. Tom, it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Pleasure to have you here. Always glad to show off the zoo.
Now, Tom, before we begin our tour, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Good.
What is the philosophy of the Brandywine Zoo as you see it?
Okay, the Brandywine Zoo is a small zoo. It's going to strive to be as small a burden on the local taxpayers as possible. And as far as the animals are concerned, we're concentrating on North and South American animals, although we do have a few animals, our Siberian tigers, our Burmese pythons, and our African lions, that are not American, but are inherited from the last zoo administration and are big hits with the community. So they're going to stay, live out their lives here. But the rest of our philosophy is basically trying to get the people as close to the animals as possible while still allowing the animals enough flight distance to feel secure. So the choice is the animals. If they want to be right up near the people, they can. If the animals do not care to be near the people, they can be off in a different part of the exhibit, but still in view.
Now, I understand that you do work on a shoestring budget. Do you have any budgetary problems that you're facing at this time with the county council?
We have budgetary problems every year, but we've had a very good relationship with county council in the past, and I feel secure that the minor budget problems that we will face will be rectified when the final budget comes out in June.
But how many visitors do you have to the zoo?
We had about 100,000 visitors through the zoo last year, and then our traveling zoo, which our two supervisory keepers take out to all the schools and hospitals in the community, saw another 20,000 individuals. So it gives us, when you take the 120,000 people and our $215,000 budget from last year, a cost per use of about $1.80, which is not bad at all.
Now, what part of the zoo are we going to see today?
We're going to take you through the heart of the zoo, the main section, past the kitchen and our new administration building, and we're going to take a look at our rare Siberian tigers, our newest arrival, Big Mac the condor and his mate, yet to be named, our bears, our lions, and maybe sneak a peek at the owls.
Oh, it sounds pretty good. Let's take a walk down.
Good, come on.
Now, who are our two guests over here to our left?
This is Ruff, Mr. Ruff, and Luba, his mate's back behind the tree. Mr. Ruff is a Siberian tiger. The Siberians are the largest cat in the world, and Mr. Ruff is the largest Siberian tiger I've ever seen.
Now, he looks just like an overgrown pussycat who's just about ready to attack.
If that overgrown pussycat attacks you, you're in a lot of trouble.
It looks like he's just being very playful right now.
Right, he's got a special rapport here with Big Jim, and they, when the keepers have trouble getting Ruff in and Jim's around, all Jim does is yell to the tigers, get in your den, and they hop up and run right in the den for him.
What does a tiger like that cost?
I don't think you can put a price tag on them because they have to be gotten through breeding loans with other institutions. There are more Siberian tigers in captivity in zoos in the United States now than there are in the wild. There's only a couple hundred left in the wild. So you can't buy these animals. You have to have government permission to ship them across state lines, and the only way you can get that is if you have a breeding loan from another registered zoo.
Now, will these two mate?
We've seen them copulate once. We've got our fingers crossed. We'd love to have some baby Siberian tigers, but so far, no luck. They're about 7 years old. They've been breeding age for a few years now. We'd probably have another 7 or 8 years to keep trying. We hoped in this new exhibit that they would breed, and we saw the only copulation in this exhibit, but we don't have any luck so far.
Well, let's say goodbye to our feline friends and move on to our next exhibit.
Okay.
What do you suggest we go to next?
Why don't we look at the owls?
Tom, what kind of owls are we looking at here?
We're looking at horned owls, native to North America, and Arctic owls, or snowy owls, native to North America, basically up above the tree line in Canada, although every couple of years they do come as far south as Delaware, according to the lemming population in Canada. Our horned owls here have laid eggs for the last 3 or 4 years, but this year in their new exhibit, which is a more natural habitat, they hatched the owls out for the first time.
Now, are these owls full grown at this point?
These owls are an adult pair that has been in the zoo for many years. The snowy owl was born last year and hatched last year at the Philadelphia Zoo, and we have her on breeding loan from the Philadelphia Zoo, and I'm in the process of trying to find a mate for her.
Is this another one of your endangered species?
No, these aren't endangered species. The horned owls are fairly common, and so are the snowy owls. You don't see them as often because they're a nocturnal predator.
And of course, that would mean that you'd see them just at night flying around, and during the day they would sleep normally?
Normally. You'd probably not see them at night nearly as much as hear them. When we're through here in the evening, it's sort of interesting with them hooting all night long.
Now, how many do we have in here?
We've got a pair of horned owls and a single snowy owl. The snowy owls are interesting because they've got a distinct sexual dimorphism between the males and the females. Most of these birds, you can't tell the difference. You can't tell the male from the female. But in the snowy owls, the males are basically all white, and the females have this beautiful checkering pattern. I like the eyes on the snowy owls. They're great big yellow orbs that seem to pierce right through you when they look at you.
Well, we're going to leave our snowy owls now and our great horned owls, and let's move on next to the...
Another bird of prey, the Andean condors, our newest member of the zoo family.
Good. Right over here. Now, these condors, where are they indigenous to?
They're indigenous to the Andes Mountains, anywhere from Venezuela all the way down to the Straits of Magellan, Tierra del Fuego.
I understand you just got them in the zoo. When did they come in?
They came in last week, last Wednesday, and they're from the Bronx Zoo. They're on a breeding loan. They were part of the breeding program of the Bronx Zoo. They're actually the Dallas Zoo's birds. So we've got them on breeding loan from the Dallas Zoo via the Bronx Zoo. It's one of those complicated maneuvers you have to make in order to get animals as rare as these. There's only a few hundred of these left in the world.
Wow. Now, in the wild, what type of conditions would they be living in?
In the wild, they'd probably be way up in the mountains. And they sit on mountain perches, and since they have such excellent eyesight, they look for dead or dying prey somewhere down below. And then they'll jump off the mountains sort of like a hang glider would and soar for hours and hours.
Do these birds come with names?
Yes, one of them did. The one down here is Big Mac, and the female is yet to be named. We're sort of hoping that we might be able to get someone to sponsor a contest here in town to name Big Mac's mate.
I understand that Big Mac was the first condor raised in captivity?
Yeah, the Bronx Zoo was successful with condors, and he was their first success. They took such good care of him that he became almost like a pet. And to this day, when we come by with food, he sticks his head right through the wire and begs for food. It's really pretty cute.
What are we going to see next in the zoo?
Well, we've got the bears right over here, and farther down from them are the lions.
Well, let's go down and check the bears out.
That's Tsarina coming out now, and Rasputin right behind her. These are two black bears, although they're not both black. The female, the smaller one here, is the traditional black color, and Rasputin's a little bit rare cinnamon color, and quite a bit bigger animal. He's got to be a 500-pounder. We had an interesting occurrence earlier this spring. Tsarina here was down on her back in the den, vomiting, glassy-eyed, refusing to move or eat, and I thought she was going to die. I thought for sure this animal right here was going to die. We called in our vet, Dr. Lynn Klein from New Bolton Center. We shot her with tranquilizers, knocked her down, went in with a whole team of veterinarians, took x-rays, had tubes down her throat to make sure she'd breathe even though she was under anesthesia, had the anesthesia machine hooked right up to her. We found a abscess, two abscesses underneath the pad of the paw. We cleaned those out, filled them with antibiotics, topical antibiotics, and then shot her full of quick-acting and long-lasting antibiotics, and the next day she was up and around, and within 2 or 3 days she was totally healed. But it looked like a miraculous cure.
If you were out in the wild, would these bear attack?
They could. They're a very dangerous animal, especially if they're hungry and they think you have food or you would be good to eat. They would be a very dangerous animal.
Now, what would you advise someone if they were out in the wild and they saw a bear like this? What would be good advice to that person?
I wouldn't advise them to climb a tree, because these guys go right up a tree. I would advise them to get inside an automobile or run, although this bear could probably outrun a human. But I think there's strength in numbers when it comes to these animals. If you've got a large group with you, they're probably not going to bother you. And normally they would not bother you. It's an abnormal situation when they bother you, but not as abnormal as many other situations where people get bothered by animals.
They look quite playful now. How old are they?
They're about 7 years old. They came here as cubs about 6 years ago.
Well, thanks. So what's last on our agenda, of course, we have the...
African lions.
Good, let's go see them.
Okay. This is Sultan and Tanika.
Very royal-looking pair of felines.
He forgot to comb his hair this morning.
I see. Now, where do these two come from?
These are African lions from the south of the Sahara Desert.
Now, there are lions from outside of Africa also, aren't there?
Right. There is a small portion of lions that are direct relatives to these that live in Asia. And they live in a small park in India. They're the only remnants of the Asian lion left. Then, of course, in America we have the mountain lion, which is a cat, but not a relative to the African lion at all.
Now, in the wild, they live in groups,
They live
prides.
in a pride.
Yeah.
A pride. Usually a couple of males and a number of females and young ones. And the pride hunts with females and lions both doing the killing, although females probably doing more of it than the males.
That's surprising.
And the males then step right in and push everybody out and usually end up eating first, with the females and the young ones getting what's left.
I suppose that's their way of preparing the dinner meal.
Probably.
Now, how old will these animals live to be?
These animals could live 20 to 30 years in captivity. They will probably, in fact, for sure, they will live longer here in captivity than they will in the wild. In the wild, these animals would be parasite-ridden. When they got too old to eat, they would live longer than some other animals do because they're a pride animal, a social animal. But when they get too old to kill, it's not too long before they die. Here in captivity, they get regular veterinary checkups. They get fed 6 days of the week. We fast them on 1 day. And they have no fear of any type of predation at all.
I guess that keeps them lean, the 1-day fast.
That we hope to keep them a little bit leaner, because if they're kept lean as opposed to fat, they tend to have a longer life and less hardening of the arteries and a lower libido and things like that.
Well, Tom, I want to thank you for bringing us on this short tour of the zoo. Can we come back another time and see another part of the zoo?
Next time, come on back and we'll look at the exotic animal building. It's a totally different experience from what you've had today.
Great. Well, viewers, this has been a very nice visit, and we'll be back again to see what...